look outside that box. And the best way to do that, like Dr. Price said, is to start rubbing shoulders with people that are in the field. And so I hate the word networking. As someone that went to business school, I hate the word networking, but the world does go around by the people you know, and there's plenty of people out there that want to help. So, all right, here we are. You want to start us off, Dr. Price? The main components of the EM application cycle.
I'm muted again. All of a sudden I got muted, but I will absolutely start off. What we're going to do now is just kind of go through the components and talk about them quickly so that you know what we look for as program leadership, as even chief residents are helping with the application process and recruitment of residents into their program. And so we're going to talk about the things that stand out to us. So your med school transcripts, they're kind of nice, but so many schools are pass-fail honors. Some schools are on A, B, C, D, E. Some people are on outstanding, excellent, fair, above average. There's a million different ways to look at your transcripts. As long as we don't see repeated courses or time gaps, you're fine with your transcript. If you have repeated courses or a gap in time, like you had to repeat something or you took a leave of absence, we're going to talk about on the application where you might have some opportunity to explore that. But because schools are so different, we don't give a whole lot of weight to the transcripts. We are interested in people that make the Gold Humanism Society. As many of you know, AOA is at some schools and not at other schools. So it's not a great way to stratify the people that are coming in. So what we are looking for is that you were able to take your classes, pass your classes, and keep moving forward with progression. Anything outside of that is what we get flagged on the transcripts. Hannah, anything to add?
I would just say the Gold Humanism, if you don't know what that is, it's probably because it's usually a third-year thing. So after your third year or your first at least clinical rotations, you get typically nominated for demonstrating empathetic care in the clinical setting. So for all of those of you that like really love the idea of going the extra mile and getting that blanket, not because anybody's looking at you, but because it's the right thing to do, Gold Humanism is the thing that you're going to get. And so that's a big deal because it really demonstrates sort of the what we all epitomize in a physician, right? The bedside manner that you would want your mother to get if she were in the emergency department.
Absolutely. Sorry I didn't explain that well, for sure. Hannah mentioned earlier about your CV. So you guys all had to provide a little bit of a CV going into med school. The best way to keep up with that is as you do things, that CV should be on your desktop, on your laptop, on the screen. So if you get invited to come talk about your research or to do a poster, or you get involved with something like, oh, they just appointed me the clinical leader of the student clinic, just go in on that day and update your CV. The best way, again, to keep that thing updated so that it's always ready is to make sure that it stays very accessible.
Absolutely. I think it's really hard to understand what a CV looks like, particularly as a student. You often ask a resident or a faculty member, hey, can you share your CV? And you're like, how am I ever supposed to achieve this? I even feel that way as a chief resident. And so if you don't know what a CV should look like, there's plenty of information out there geared to medical students.
Plenty. And we know a lot of it's just padding. Some stuff you're excited about, but no student should have a CV that's 6 pages long. I can't imagine what you have done that makes me think that you have 6 pages of work. So people, make sure that as you look at those, we look at the small things. If you have a spelling error or spacing error or things like that, it tells me that you might not pay attention to detail as much. So your CV is important. So keep it up, but make sure you have somebody look at it before you upload it, before you send it out to anybody for any position that you're looking at. So it's something that you should always have. Once you get 21 years old, you should have a working CV that stays on your laptop and just be ready.
Or better yet, a Google Doc so you can sign in
Yes,
there and just
even
edit
better.
on the fly.
Even better. Do it while you are waiting for the shuttle to come take you back to your car, to get back to your car after class. Lots of things are mobile these days.
Awesome.
So now we're at this whole USMLE COMLEX. There's no P in that. Sorry, it's the COMLEX scores. Sorry, any DOs on the line. So about that, we know that the pathway to residency, they are trying to combine so that it's not coming at it from the DO side or the MD side, but that there's one common pathway. So eventually the test is going to morph into one exam, the USMLE. There are currently still people out there that are taking the COMLEX and still looking at the scores. So what do we think? We thought about this going to pass fail. There was a lot of hubbub in the Council of Residency Directors as we looked at what this might mean and how it will impact our applications. I think the main thing that we walked away with was it puts people on more of an equal footing to come with everybody being pass fail. But clearly, as people are looking for objective data to look at their applicants, this is going to mean that step 2 has more weight. I don't think there's any way we can get around that. And I think people will say, no, that's not the way that's going to happen. Trust me, in the conversations that we have, there will definitely be more emphasis on step 2. Is that good or is it bad? Well, step 1 almost is more of a measurement of your teaching during med school, what kind of schooling you had beforehand, and how they taught the test of the preclinical sciences. The reason why it's better for more emphasis to be on step 2 is because that test tests your clinical applicability to the things that you have learned. So not just the physiology, but the pathophysiology and how it impacts patient care. So I do think that this is probably a good thing both ways. Yes, step 2 will mean more, but it's actually a better measurement of how we take care of people in the ED, how you guys will take care of people that you see on all your rotations. People that kind of have that bent for emergency medicine, I think we score well on these kind of tests because every test starts out with this patient shows up in clinic and has this, or the patient shows up in the ED and has this, or you see a patient with these symptoms and these labs. That's what we do every day, all day. And I think we do it a little bit more to the extent on the fly and quickly than maybe those that are in the primary care specialties. And so the scores are there. The better you can score, the better things are for you in the future. It means you have options. Because if now most of this is shifted to step 2 and you have a bad day, step 2, and guess what? People have bad days. Your dog dies unexpectedly, you get sick. We want to make sure that that test that you have, we can go back and look at step 1, but we can also look back at your med school transcripts. I think that some of the people that struggle the first year in residency the most are those that struggle with the exam because they had a weak foundation. So the more you can shore up your foundation by doing tons of questions and reading for the test, the better off you'll be in the long run. So there's not an easy answer, A plus B equals C. If you make 242 step 2, you don't have anything to worry about. It doesn't work like that. It just helps us look at the body of points of light of your life so that we can say, yes, this guy's going to come and do a great job because he took the test and he volunteered and he honored in his rotations and people really like him and they wrote great things about him on his letters. This is why we're talking about all the application components. We hear 90% of the questions I get and have gotten this year are about this change in USMLE complex scores change. Don't make it be the focus of your life. but don't lose sight of it. It's important, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Anna?
Yeah, so I think that that gets to the question that I had postponed, which is if your school is pass fail, you don't have a class rank, and now step one is pass fail, how do you differentiate yourself? And I really think that this is what it comes down to. Residencies are going to have to do a better job at screening applications without question, right? And this is a diversity 8-week curriculum. So here's sort of the spiel. If you look at the evidence behind how residencies are recruiting diverse applicants, it's holistic review depending on where your background is. So you need to demonstrate your background in many different ways. And that's really where it gets to the personal statement this year in the era of COVID is going to be more important than it ever was before. You're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, emergency medicine, they don't care about the personal statement. And that was true up until COVID happened, right? But now the classes that are before you haven't been able to take STEP, didn't get away rotations, and have less data in their application as well, just like you will with having step one being pass fail. So will it push to step two? Absolutely. But the way you differentiate yourself is just like you always have, right? Be you. Have a passion and go with it. And that means that's everything from the things that you choose to volunteer for, the leadership positions that you choose to take, how you demonstrate yourself on shift, both clinically and professionally and sort of compassionately. So there are plenty of ways to differentiate yourself, but there are hard ways for programs to evaluate, and there are easy ways. And it is very easy to look at someone's step two score and say, this is a good student, or look at how many honors rotations they have and say, this is a good student. We can't change that overnight. We're trying, right? But this is the point where you can say, I am more than just the composite of my scores. And the way to do that is the personal statement, number 4 on here. A personal statement should demonstrate why you're interested in emergency medicine. But you also have to acknowledge that the person that's reading them is reading 1,000 of them. So don't be dishonest. Don't share something that's not true, but share something that's unique to you. This is the time where if you've gone through a life experience that has demonstrated grit and perseverance, tell us about it. But only so much as that you're comfortable talking about it on an interview. So you don't have to know what that personal statement looks like now, but I do think that particularly as we move forward in the era of COVID and more virtual experiences and step one being a pass fail, EM has historically downplayed the personal statement. I think it's going to get more important for your guys' classes.
And in my program, we value the personal statement. We place a lot of weight on the ability of somebody to tell the story of their journey, to again pay attention to details in terms of using the right word and excellent grammar, and the way your phraseology catches me into what you're trying to say. There are a lot that we read every year that say, I used to wait tables in emergency medicines, like waiting tables. You have to be able to switch on and off. That's probably about 50% of the personal statements that we read. So I totally agree with Hannah. Figure out what's unique about your life, whether it's you worked 3 jobs and this is what you learned, and then you can tie that at the end into how that works for emergency medicine. Tell me about what you learned in the military, in your background, or that you moved from Africa to Canada and then came to the US, and these are the things you learned coming into 3 or 4 different systems. Or what made you decide you were interested in healthcare because of some event. Your little brother was diagnosed with leukemia and you went through the whole process. Tell me the essence of you that says, this is why I am, this is what drives me, this is what my life has been about, and this is what I can come and bring to your program. My smile, my drive, and my unique story. I think I totally agree with Hannah. Don't underplay that, because we are going to be looking, especially this year, when we can see you on the screen, but we can't see you. We can't smell you. We can't look at that energy that you come. Our favorite thing to do, because you guys know the interview starts when you get off the plane. I love to hear, what's the chatter going on in the break room? Are they all sitting there quiet and everybody's looking at their phone? I can tell you those aren't our people. But if they're interacting and making friends, or they, talking about the coffee or telling stories, and I hear a lot of laughter, I'm like, whoa, I got a room full of my people in there. And then we're just looking at the unique stories that they bring for the personal statement. Please send it to 3 or 4 people, 9 people. Send it to me. I read personal statements all the time. I can help you focus them down so that people read them. Because what you don't want is a lot of rambling. It should never be more than 1 page. Figure out what you want to say and start with the conclusion. And then go back to the top, and then let's fill in a couple of paragraphs in the middle. The personal statement's important.
Awesome. We're a little bit more than halfway, so I'm going to pause here if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question or throw it into the chat. And see, I'm scrolling through, making sure no one's raising their hand. Otherwise, I'll tell a brief story if someone's typing a question. I knew I found my people because when I interviewed at University of Cincinnati, that night after the interview, we all were staying an extra night because the hotel was covered. And so we decided to go out on a Friday night and just explore as applicants. None of us had really known each other prior to that, but there was 10 of us, and emergency medicine is such a small community, believe it or not, that you get to know everybody. And so all 10 of us went to a bar down the street and ended up ice skating in the rink in the middle of the town, and then got fried chicken at the end of the night. And I was like, this is emergency medicine. And these are my people. And that is true amongst the residencies. There's no such thing as a ranking of residencies, right? Don't believe doximity. That's not a thing.
So true.
Is a great residency. It's just which one is best for you.
Right.
And you're so early in your career. Now is the time just to figure out what about emergency medicine makes you happy. You'll figure out what program you want later on. So any questions before we move on to the last 2 points?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for hosting this, by the way. So I'm an M1, and I guess with the whole entire step 2 commotion or step 1 pass fail thing, do you think research will also start to elevate within the application process?
I think it's all going to elevate. I think whatever you can do that sets you apart, whether it's your military service, whether it's your research, whether it's your volunteerism, I think all the different things, I think more people are going to be in pursuit of those, but I also think what you have and what you're interested is going to be the only way I have after meeting you on a screen and being able to talk to you. Those are the things that I'm going to be asking about and looking for, because I'm still trying to find you. I'm still trying to find the you that makes you the perfect person to fit into my program. So absolutely, do your thing, do your research, make it mean something. I will guarantee you the stuff that you are going to hear at the 3rd year session and the 4th year session is, I've asked people what their research was or what they learned from their paper, and they don't even remember the title of something that they put on their CV that they did as a 1st year. That's just a no-no. I want you to do things that tell me you are working on something because you're passionate about it and not just because you're trying to fill out the book. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah, great question. Everything means something. Everything means something. Anybody else?
Can I caveat that?
Sure.
Everything means something, and it doesn't have to just be research. I dread the day that research becomes a requirement for me to do, right? That is not, so if you are me on this call and you're like, oh my God, I have to do research now. No. Will it become more important to demonstrate why you were interested in that? Yes, and that's what Dr. Price is trying to say. So for me, mine was doing outreach to day workers. It was doing pre-medical advising for underserved populations. It was doing business school related work. So find your niche, because the beauty of emergency medicine is that we're all great clinicians, but almost every emergency medicine physician in this country is an emergency medicine physician plus.
Plus.
Whatever that plus is for
Plus.
you,
Yes.
run with it.
Plus. Plus and plus. That is so true. We say all the time, emergency medicine is for people who want to do other things with their lives. They want to run a flower store. They want to do politics. They want to teach. They want to fly helicopters. They want to do all the things. So she's right. They want to do toxicology. It's a plus. So if you tell me about your research and then tell me how you're going to make it applicable to what your career is going to look like, even better. Some of these kiddos that come in with a MD, PhD, I'm like, how are you going to incorporate that PhD into emergency medicine? Well, I don't really know yet. I just did it. That's not the right answer. Like if you're going to spend 5 years doing something, you want it to count. I'm going to really quickly talk about the dean's letter. That's about a 2-minute conversation. Keep with the questions. We're still going to have a couple minutes at the end. It's 8:44 and I'll be done with this at 8:46. The dean's letter is a compilation of what you do in med school through 3rd year. Doesn't encompass your 4th year. So there's a clinical and a preclinical. You guys are here preclinical. It's going to tell me how you did in your preclinical classes. It's going to talk about your step. And then that first paragraph is something almost akin to a little mini personal statement. This person is applying. They came from New Mexico where they were a cowboy, and after they broke their leg, they got excited and applied to our med school. She comes to us. She's done these things while she was in med school, volunteered here, was in this clinic, and then did this. That first paragraph is something else that we look at that just tells us a little bit more about why did they pick you to fit into their med school. And for some schools, that's like 4 sentences. For other schools, it's like 2 paragraphs. And so again, just a little bit of something that is a compilation of the first 3 years. You are supposed to be able to look at your dean's letter before it goes out so you can correct any mistakes, but you can't change what people say about you in your rotations or your evaluations. So it just tells us that your whole life in med school, it's an easy thing, but you can't really impact it very much. Hannah, anything else?
Yeah, I think that the interesting piece that you should pay attention to is all of the written evaluations that you receive, including for courses like if you do a longitudinal systems course as an M1 that's not basic science, but perhaps has some policy relation to it, and you get a written evaluation, every single one of those comments will be put into that MSPE. And so this is where it becomes very relevant to be your own advocate. I never wanted something written down about me that was not told to my face. And so the way to do that is be hungry for feedback, right? Not so much as you annoy someone, but if you're halfway through a rotation or a class, you say, hey, how can I be better? Or today I want to work on this, or this week my goal is to do better on this. Could you provide me feedback? Be your own advocate, because you never want something written in an evaluation that was never told to you in person. And I would love to say that doesn't happen, but it happens all the time.
It happens all the time, especially if they write stuff like she was late 4 times, but she ended up doing well on the course. That but has just kind of sank the entire application. So just make sure you are asking for information. If you have a group in your 1st or 2nd year, any kind of group course, social and behavioral sciences, preparation for clinical medicine, participate, talk, because when we see she didn't say much, but when she spoke, it was this or whatever, we wonder, are they going to get swallowed up in my big level 1 and not be able to make themselves heard? So that's the dean's letter. The last thing we're going to talk about are the letters of recommendation, because they are also important. And again, depending on the way your school is structured, it makes a big deal. There are 2 kinds of letters. The letters of recommendation. So those people that teach those longitudinal classes that have known you for the first 2 years, that's a great person to get a letter from. The other letter for emergency medicine is a standardized letter of evaluation. I'm going to talk about that one in a minute, but let me just tell you, please don't get these regular letters. You can only put 4 on your application. These regular letters, you should not have more than 1, maybe 2. Do not ask family members. Do not ask clergy. I'd rather you ask people who know what you do clinically. So a lot of times we get letters from people, oh, they were so nice, and they did a project with me as a first year, and it was 6 weeks, and they did everything I told them. But that person can't speak to your clinical acumen at all. It doesn't help. So ask your advisors, who should I get my letters from? Because the best thing to do would be maybe to have 3 slows or 2 slows. And in this year, people are coming with 1 because we are not allowing anybody to do outside rotations. I'm hoping that's going to go away by the time you 1s and 2s go through the process. For this year, they'll only have 1. You should have 1 or 2 LORs and then 2 of the slows, and then make sure your advisor reads those through before you upload them. I hate when people are blindsided by things, and I'm like, to just sit with your advisor and look at your application. So letters of recommendation, somebody you know, but the way you impact that pre-clinically is to get to know that longitudinal class person. The rest of it is going to be 2nd and 3rd year. Hannah, you have an example of the standard letter?
Yes, absolutely. So I was just going to give an example of a letter of rec. So for my narrative letter, I only had 1, and it came from my MBA, right?
Yes.
That's a very unique thing to demonstrate that's not clinical. So if you're doing something unique for someone that knows you well, that's the only reason to get a narrative letter. Otherwise, the standardized letter of evaluation is the money shot. Okay. And there's a lot of confusion about what a slow is. So all I want you to take away from today is that if you're an MS1 or an MS2 interested in emergency medicine and you've already heard the term slow, you are ahead of the curve. I promise. So you should know what you're going to be evaluated on. And this is probably the biggest, most valuable part of your application as an emergency medicine applicant. It's the standardized letter. You get it by doing a 4th year general EM rotation at an associated residency. I'm going to repeat that one more time. A general EM rotation as an MS4 at a program that has a residency. That's the true.
My people. Some people all take this and they give it to somebody at a program that doesn't have EM. I need the people that speak my language, cord language. She's exactly right. This letter's not for everybody. It is for people in academic leaders in academic emergency medicine. I'm going to know the letter writers. I'm going to know their style. I'm going to know their kind of program, and we're going to talk to each other. That's who this letter is from, and mostly your application will require 2 of them, sometimes 3.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull the curtain back just a little bit. So the only way that you can actually get an E-SLO written for you is just like Dr. Price said. They have to have credentials to be able to log on to a computer system. That means that they can actually pull the stats behind how that letter writer writes.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. You can see on the screen, it says, compared to peers, where does this person's commitment fall for emergency medicine, right? Top third, middle third, bottom third. If you get middle third on the majority of these, and that letter writer is a really, really sort of difficult writer, and that they don't give much honors, that's a great letter, right? So it's all relative to how the person writes, and all of that data is shared. So this is like when you were taking OChem and you wanted that score that was based on the mean, right? That's what this is. It's all reflective of who writes it for you. So don't be confused though. There are 3 other different types of slows out there. They're far beyond the scope of this talk as an MS1, as an or MS2. This is the main E-SLO. The QR code has a link to, so you can read the full SLO on there, and you can see what it has in terms of every question. But the bottom 2 questions are the most important. This is why it becomes really valuable in emergency medicine. I didn't screenshot it. I wanted to save something to make you use the QR code. But the bottom 2 questions basically say, where do you rank this person compared to their peers? And where is this person going to be on your rank list, right? So if you're going to do an EM rotation at your home institution, almost inevitably they know you better. They're going to rank you more sort of leisurely and give you more kudos. If you go to an away rotation that doesn't know you, you're probably going to get a little bit more of an honest feedback. But if you go to that away and they say this person's going to be in the top 10% of my rank list, every other residency in the country is going to say, damn,
Wow.
that program wants them. So what does this mean? It's not about the letter itself. It's about your performance on an emergency medicine rotation. You have many years to figure this out, but I can guarantee you there's a few ways that you are going to kill your chances in emergency medicine. I'll give you an example. Last year, we had a student that came to Grand Rounds, and the way we're set up, the med students walk in front of the residents. She showed up 5 minutes late. We had paid for a visiting professor to be flown in from the West Coast, and she got up in the middle of the lecture and came back. No worries, like maybe you had to use the bathroom. She came back with Starbucks in her hand, and it's right around the corner. I tell you this because you think people would not do this. People do this. Don't be that person, right? The only thing that we care about other than your clinical competency is, can I go get a drink with you at 2 a.m? Just be you, just be normal, and the slow will work its way out. But this is by far the money shot of the EM application.
Concur. But something for you to worry about for third year. I see that whole bottom row of the cameras off, people. Do you guys have any other questions? Preclinical, navigate away rotations. Right now, the AAMC has forbidden any outside rotations. The only way you can do an outside rotation is if your school does not have emergency medicine. If your school does not have emergency medicine, they want you to look regionally first. So if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, they're going to be like, look at Georgetown, look at GW, look there. Or is there a feeder program that knows you that will take your people? So it's COVID is going to throw a wrench for these 4th and 3rd year students this year. You guys are 1 and 2, and we hope to have figured this out a little bit better by the time it's time for you guys to have your rotations. Does that make sense? They're a little bit screwed, but you guys are going to have it better.
In fact, actually, the reason why Dr. Price and I were so excited about this specific set of students, you guys, is because we feel like the 4th years have gotten all the attention this year, right? But we realize that COVID has impacted your education too, and that's why we're really excited to talk to you guys now. So will it be better for aways? Please, let's hope so, right? But if not, you're already plugged in, stay plugged in, and keep getting the advice from the people that should be giving it to you, the experts. But yeah, let's hope you can still do aways because we miss you guys.
Absolutely. Some of the other reasons that we're actually putting on this 8-week seminar is that there's been a little bit of a targeted response to trying to fix some of the, 1, healthcare disparities, and 2, the disparities within the medical providers in the United States. And so I will just give you a couple of pieces of advice. Don't go somewhere to tick off a box for them. You guys work hard, figure out what you want and where you want to be, and then let that be your guide. You want to go someplace where you feel supported and loved and they have what you need. You don't want to go somewhere just because they put you on a plane and put you in a hotel and then said, hey, come to us because we want somebody that speaks your language or has your skin color or wears your glasses. So please, I will just tell you, as you guys are out there and looking around, don't settle. Just because we're in COVID world, don't settle. Even though it's only 3 years of your life, it's 3 years of your life. So find some mentors, get some help, make sure you sign up for EMRA. Yes, you'll be able to get the PowerPoint. You'll guys will have access to this after it's recorded, so you can go back and look at it and refer to it. If you've signed up for it, you're going to have the ability to see this stuff after the 8-week course is over with. Are there any last minute questions or anything else I can do? Can you, Hannah, slide back to you and I slide so that some of these people that we didn't meet at the beginning can get our email address? I'm going to just tell you, if you Twitter me, I'm not going to be able to Twitter you back because I don't know how to do that effectively. But just email me, posting the information about the mentorship that started a week ago. If you go through the ADIEM site or the SAEM site, that mentoring information will be there. I also think that Emma had a link to it. Can you pull it up, Anna?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for half a second to
Okay.
because I have.
So she can go into all the things that we weren't supposed to see earlier when I was like, Hannah, we can see your screen.
Yeah, sorry.
Any other questions while she's pulling up that mentorship? Do you guys all have some mentors? Somewhat. So the other thing I'll tell you is, as first and second years, half of you guys are going to decide not to do emergency medicine. That is okay. But the great thing about hanging around the emergency department and figuring out a mentor is maybe they can help guide you to something that you might be a little bit more suited to. So when you're in the ED, you see what OB does, you see what orthopedics does, you see what cardiology does. So it's a great place to get information. And what we say in emergency medicine, there's no wasted learning. There's nothing out there that you will learn that you can't apply back to your life as a med student, and particularly for us in emergency medicine. So thank you for coming to our session. We know we don't want you to be trapped in emergency medicine if it's not for you, but we are absolutely here to help you succeed. And so she's putting those links down in the chat. You guys have our emails. If you just want to talk to some people and figure out what we love about EM and what we hate about it, because you're trying to decide between OB and EM, or where you want to go or what you want to do, reach out to us, reach out to those mentors, sign up for EMIG, sign up for EMRA. Life is yours to grab. This is too long and too hard to do if you're not going to have fun. And me, 20 years in, I still think I have the best job in the world. I wouldn't trade my life for anybody. I love it. I love it every day. And I hope I can do it for another 20 years, even though I hope I want to retire next year or the year after that or the year after that. Any other questions?
I think Crystal had a question of just
Sorry.
Should she be trying to scout out programs this early? No, gosh, no.
No. What do we tell you to focus on? Pay attention to your life in school first. We'll get to that in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID. There's no scoping. They right now have told us people want to say, hey, can I come shadow a day? And normally during an application season, if you show up at my hospital and you say you're applying this season and you want to just do a half-day shadow, you don't even have to set it up. You can just walk in. It is forbidden this year. So don't worry about the thing. Today has enough of its own worries. Don't borrow tomorrow's worries. Get in, get your school, get connected, find your wellness. Make sure you get some balance in your life. And then if you need us, we're here. Okay?
All right. Well, I just wanted to say congrats again on being at least interested, if not already committed, to the best specialty in the world. I will leave you with this. I do mean it when we say emergency medicine plus, right? We want physicians that want to just make the world a better place, no matter what that means. And so the best way to distinguish yourself from now to then, be a great medical student, but be a better.
Amen.
And thank you so much for your time today. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to either one of us.
Fabulous. And I will mirror the same thing. Alex, quickly, I saw your question roll up. Scribing is not considered shadowing. So yes, we think you have a sense of how the ED works, but not really. You're kind of protected. You have a lot of an idea, but you're kind of protected behind the computer of scribing. You still would like to shadow, but you have a clue. It's just the same as somebody who might have been a nurse or an EMT beforehand. I am serious when I say figure out what makes you tick, and then look towards the good things for that, because you have to figure out how to sustain your life over the next 40 or 50 years. So I think this is fun, but outside of this, make sure you have some hobbies and make sure you have some help. Help, hobbies. We're here to help you find yourself, but we absolutely will look for you in the rest of our sessions. Hannah's doing another one. I'm doing several more. So we are really excited that you guys came and joined with us today. I just saw one more. Covering with your mentors. Yeah, who are you? What do you like? They're going to help decide whether emergency medicine is for you. If you like closure, emergency medicine is not for you. We send out, we like, whoo, thank God that lady went upstairs. I don't know what was wrong with her, but thank God she went upstairs. Like, in all honesty, if you're the kind of person that needs the whole answer and wrap it up with a bow and all, this is not your specialty. So things like that you can talk with your mentors, but and figuring out what you don't like. On our interview, we talk about what is the part of emergency medicine you don't like. And if you can't come up with that, you don't know enough about the specialty. Lots of other questions, email us. We're supposed to be very much abiding to the timeline so that you guys will come back next time and not feel sure that we're going to talk your ears off. So good luck, everybody. Stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and take care. Welcome to med school, you ones. Enjoy it. It's a blast. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you.